Parshas Vayeira, Tuvshi Pai Hai, Besiyata Dishmaya. This week's Parsha, a lot of noise about what to talk. The beginning of the Parsha is the mitzvah Vachnus Esoirichem. We see by Ahron Bevini, Beyom Shlishi Lemilosoi. And Chazal learn from this Parsha a lot of Nekidus Nachnos Esoirichem. And towards the end of the Parsha is the Akedas Yitzchok. That we still eat from this schar till today. Macheles, Rashi brings down one pshat. Why is it called a macheles? Pashtus macheles means the sakin, the knife, in order to shecht Yitzchok. And the poshet the time why it's called macheles, because it's mesakin that you should be able to eat it. Before Shlita you can't eat, it's even menachai. Through Shlita you can start eating the behemoth, so it's called the macheles. It makes raw the behemoth should be eaten. But Rashi brings down another pshat from Chazal. Macheles means that heathen Jews still eat till today from the schar of this Akedas Yitzchok. You still oichlem matn schara. So let's start with the beginning of the Parashat Vayeira, the mitzvah Vachnus Esoirichem, and also we see a lot of chinuch in the beginning of the Parashat, because even when the Pusik says, when the Maluchim go to Sedoim, and Hashem says, I want to tell Avruam what I'm planning to do with Sedoim. Hashem says, Am I gonna, how do you call it in English? Be mechasa. Hide. Am I gonna hide from Avruam what I'm planning to do with Sedoim? And then the Pasuk is a Mamshech continues and says, Ki yedativ, lemana sheyitzave esbono vesbeisei achrov, v'shomri derech Hashem. The Svurim HaKadosh and the Zera Kodesh of Ropshitz, and a lot of them say, we see that the Pasuk is Meshabeach Avrum Avini. Why did Hashem love him? Because he is Mechanech his children. Even though he was Oimed Basar Nesyonis, so the Pasuk could have said, he was Oimed Benesoy, he was thrown into the Kivshan Oveish by Nimrod. And all other Nesyonis that he had, 10 Nesyonis. And even though the Pasuk mentions what's the Sibah that Hashem likes Avrum Avini, he loves him, because he gives away time and effort, and he's mashkia in his children, to be mechanech, that there should be a continuation to the derech Hashem. Ki yedat v'lemana sheyitzav v'ezbuna v'ezbeiso yachrov. And if we're talking already about chinuch, I want to go to the Akedah for a minute. The Akedas Yitzchok, we see Rashi brings down a chazal, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Avraham Avinu, it says over there, the Poloshna Pasuk is kach no, a Loshon Bakushe. Rashi brings down, Umar lo, Hashem Yisburach told to Avraham, Bevakoshem imcha, I ask from you, Amoid li bezah nisoyen, stand by this nisoyen of Akedas Yitzchok, I want it very much. Why? Shelo yoimru, the Maluchim shouldn't say, Harishoyno is the first ones, Lahoyu bo amamish. It's not a big deal, the first ones. That's what Rashi brings down. So that's why I ask from you, you should also be oimed the distant nisoyen of the Akedas Yitzchok. The Mefarshim ask why. If it wouldn't be oimed this nisoyin and he had 9 nisyonis, or rishoynis ein bu amamish, it's nothing, it's not worthful. Only this nisoyin is the nisoyin. The Mefarshim explain with this yisoid. All other 9 nisyonis were a nisoyin for Avraham Avinu himself. If he is maskim to throw himself into the kivshan oveish for Hashem Yisborach, if he is maskim lech lechom haaretzchem melatchem ebeisavichu, all other nisyonis were nisyonis that he had to withstand by himself. By this nisoyen, he also needed that Yitzchok should be maskim. Yitzchok should be maskim to shecht himself by the Akedas Yitzchok. And now was on, how they say, on the test, on the mifchan, also, was Avraham matzliach with his chinuch to bring also into his children the koich is that he has to be oimed ben esoy, that it should go through to the children also, and they also have this koich to be oimed ben esoy, or not. For sure, the first 9 is yoines are gewaldig, but the main idea of Avraham idach ki yedativ, lemana sheyitzav v'ezbono v'ezbeiso yachrov. That's the reason why Hashem loves him so much. Avraham oihavi. The Avraham oihavi is only, we could see it if he was matzliach taka with his chinuch, and that's why Hashem wanted so much that this nisoy should go through, that everybody should see that Avraham is Vini's chinuch. Even more than that, I think that the Kotzker Rebbe even explains No, I think that's the Avnei Nezer. The Avnei Nezer says an interesting thing. By the Akedas Yitzchok, if Yitzchok wouldn't be masking to shecht himself on the Akedah, there would be no Taina on Avraham Avinu. Hashem told him, you go, you try your best. But Yitzchok is not masking. He can't force him. So that's why the Nesoin is considered the Nesoin from Avraham Avinu. He was told by Hashem to do this. And Yitzchok was masking, even though he wasn't told from Hashem Yisburich he should go and shecht himself. His father tells him, I got an aviyah from Hashem to shecht you. 37 years old, my father says so. This is what Hashem wants. Even though I didn't hear a word from Hashem, I'm willing to shecht myself by the Akedas Yitzchok. So that was the chinuch that Avraham Avinu brought in into his children. Now, if you speak about chinuch, we see it also in the beginning of the Parashat. By Yishmuel. Rashi brings down that when the Maluchim came, it says, V'la'bokar rotz Avruam. Avruam ran to the Bokar. V'yikach ben Bokar rach v'toiv. Rashi says, Chazal, that he took 3 gimel parim hoyu. So he should be able to give every one of the Maluchim a lashon, a tongue with chardul. V'yiten al anar. He gives it also to Yishmuel. You should prepare it fast. Rashi says, who is the nar Yishmuel? Lechanchoi b'mitzvahs. The Mefarshim say an interesting idea. Avraham Avinu learned Yishmuel 2 things. Not only vayitna la'nar, that he should prepare the parim, also in the beginning of the pasuk it says, V'la'boka rotz Avruam, v'yikach ben bukarach v'toiv. By your own maisim, by your own deeds, that's the best chinuch. Avraham Avinu learned Yishmuel, when it comes to a mitzvah v'achnosas orchim, you run. He also learns him, whatever you could do by yourself, do by yourself. When he can't, he needs some help to make it fast, it should be mesikin, then he asks also from Yishmuel. The lechancho is not only by the vayitna lanar, v'la'boka rotz Avruam, that's also lechancho. In Vayikach ben Bukarach v'toy, whatever he could do by himself and do it with his rizis, that's also Avraham Avinu's chinuch. Part of the chinuch is also Vayitna lana, Vayimah la'asas oisoi. But everything is included in the chinuch. I once said it, a story, interesting story, cute story. One Motzei Shabbos by the Chazon Ish. People used to come for Motzei Shabbos, after Shalashidas they used to eat at home. Used to come together at his house to daven Ma'ariv, and after Ma'ariv he used to make Havdula, and the oilim used to go by, say Good Tavoch, Shavua Tov. One Shabbos, the father came and he brought along with him his son, probably 8-year-old, 9-year-old son. Now, by the middle of the quiet Shemoneh Esrei, Motzei Shabbos, everybody was davening, and this boy was a little bit making some noise. And the father tried to be a masber to convince him he should be quiet. The Chazon Ish, there's a tzibur davening over here. And probably the child didn't understand what the father wants from him. And he was going on. After 2 or 3 times that the father tried to quiet him down, he gave him a smack in his face. And that did the job. The boy understood what he needs to, and he was quiet. After the davening, they went by the Chazon Ish to say a good tavor. The Chazon Ish tells this father, I think that you tried today to be mechanech your boy to 2 things. You tried to be a mechanech. One of them, I'm not so sure if he learned his lesson, but the second one, I'm almost sure that he learned his lesson. And he started like this. You were a mechanech, the first thing, that you're not allowed to talk in the middle of davening. But that, I'm not sure if he got the message, what you wanted him to learn. The second message that you gave him, that when you get upset, you give a smack. And that for sure he learned well. That he learned well, that message, that when you get upset, you just give him a smack, and that's how he meant to say, not always that's the way. So over here we see that Avraham Avinu learned Yishmuel, Rotz Avruam, whatever you could do by yourself, he should do it with his rizes. And also what he gave him, in the beginning of the Parashat it says, Yikach no ma'at ma'im. Avraham Avinu says to the Maluchim, I'm going to bring you a little bit of water, v'rachzi ragleichem, to wash your feet. And Rashi says, Yikach no, it was by a shliach. And that's why Yikach no, it doesn't say, I'm going to bring. By Pas Lechem it says, Ve'ekcha, I'm going to take. When it comes to the mayim, it says yikachnu. So Rashi says it was al yidei shliach, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu also paid back Klal Yisrael that the water came through a shliach by Moshe Rabbeinu. It wasn't like the man that came from Shamayim, it was through a shliach. I once saw a very geschmackige word from the Guen and Tzaddik Rebbe Vadya Yosef, Zeiche Tzaddik Levruche. He brings, the Choyre de Kasha is, Avram Avinu was so generous. He took 3 parim to make for the 3 maluchim, each one should have a whole lashon, a whole tongue to eat it with chartel. And when it comes to water, yikach no ma'atmayim, only a little bit of water. Why? Why was he so stingy? Why you shouldn't you think I'm going to bring you a whole pot, a whole dish of water? You should be able to wash your feet like you need. He brings down a known story with Rabbi Sul Salante. Rabbi Sul Salante was once as a guest by a big oisher, and in those days there weren't yet sinks at home. The way how you had water was that one of the servants, one of the meshamshim, one of the avodim used to bring from the mayan, from the well, used to bring water every day, and that's how you had water at home. It came to the Suda to wash yourself to your Suda, so Rabbi Sul Salante took the cup to wash himself, and he was looking, it should be a revius, maybe a little bit more. So the Balabus tells him, why do you have to be so metzamtzem? There's enough water, you could fill up the jug. The jug? You could fill up the jug with how much water you want. Rabbi Sul answered him, I don't want to become rich on the shoulders of someone else. The Gemara says, in Masechta Gittin, that Rav Chisda says, I washed my hands with a big amount of water, and from Shomayim they showered upon me a lot of brochis. He was a big oisher, Rav Chisda. He was toilet dashiris because they washed himself with a lot of water. David Raham even mentions that the Rosh Hashanah from Al Netilas Yadayim, Rosh Hashanah is Ani, Al Netilas Yadayim. That is, Chavashulam, there's a gezeir of Anius. If you wash your hands b'shefa, it takes away the gezeir of being an ani, and you can become an oisha from that by washing yourself. So if it's on my eigen cheshbon, you go to the well and you fill up water, why not? But the Rebbe Susalamta says, I don't want to become an oisha on the shoulders of someone else. There's someone working hard over here. There's one of the Meshamshim that went and he filled up, and if I'm going to use a lot, he's going to have to go again. I don't want to do that. So the same idea says Rebbe Vadia Yosef. When Avram Avinu goes by himself, the ekcho pas lechem, kemach soil is the best of the old tvias. And when he goes to the Ben Bokar, vayikach Ben Bokar rach v'toiv. When it comes to yikachnu, he sends a shliach only matmain. You can't put it on. If you're sending a shliach, don't be a mahader and put in so much if it's al der shliach. So that's why he only said yikachnu matmain. Puri chatu adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'akol niyu b'dvoroi. Amen. I saw once in the Sefer Noyam Eliezer, that's from the Sklender Rebbe Zechroine Levruche. He says a nice cute on the posik, beginning of the Parashat, Vayeira Elov Hashem be'Eloheinu mamrei, v'yoyshev Pesach avoil kechoim hayoim. Rashi explains what means kechoim hayoim, that the sun was shining very strong. And Rashi even brings down what Chazal say, Kodesh Baruch Hu was moitze chamem in artika, the sun from the shield, from the shield, kedei sheloi latrichoi ba'oirchim, and he was, even though Avram Avinu was sitting Pesach avoil kechoim hayoim and waiting for guests. So the Sklender Rebbe says like this: a person has to fill up his days. How do you fill up a day? It should become netzach. You should take it along with yourself. If you learn that day, you daven that day, you do chesed. That's the kiyum and the nitzchias of the day, the chiyas of the day, the time that you give away for mitzvahs and masim toivim. Befrat ba'Avram Avinu, his midah was midas chesed. He was always doing achnosas orchim. Now Avram Avinu was seeing here one day in his life is going by without doing the mitzvah of achnosas orchim. So it was being kechoim hayoim. the day was burning. The day was burning. This day is going to pass by without Gemilas Chesed. I'm going to lose a day of my life. So he explains, the day was like burning. I don't want to miss this day. Like it says, Avram Avinu, Avram Zok and Bo Bayomim. Next week's Parsha, and Tzaddik Yemas Bo Bayomim, he came along with all of his days. He filled up all of his days with Torah, mitzvahs, and maasim toivim. So he was Bo Bayomim. He came, I once heard from my father, should be gesinnt. The Gemara says, Ad Avruam Lohoyu Zikne. Till Avruam there was no Zikna. No Zikne. Pashtis, the Pshat in the Gemara is, that he didn't become old. That means that your appearance outside didn't become an old appearance that like your beard became white. Just, you stayed the same till the time finished. Lohoyo Zikno, till Avram Avini. Avram Avini looked very much like Yitzchok. Ziv klas the pon of Shel Avram doimele Yitzchok. So Avram Avini asked Hashem, people don't recognize, they don't know who is Avram, who is Yitzchok. So make a difference. And that was the first time that Hashem made elderly people and younger people, even the same face, but there's still a difference if you're older or younger. That's the Pashat Pshat. But my father said maybe it could be another Pshat. Avram Avinu was the first person that filled up all of his days. So he was 175 years old. Before him, people lived 1,000 years. But if you added up the time that they lived, they maybe lived 20 years, 30 years. Because they didn't fill up the time. Avram was the first one to fill it up like Avram Avinu. So he was the first zikn of Avram Zokeinu. Why? Bayumim. He came with all of his days. Now Avram sees one day is going to pass by without doing chesed. It was like burning by him in his heart. I can't let this day go through. And Hashem helped him. If it was burning by him, the Maluchim came. And that's why he had also the mitzvah of Achnazas Orchim in that day. Let's go first to the end of the Parsha. Parsha of Akedas Yitzchok. We say every day the Parsha to Akedah. That's how the Mechaber brings down. To be Mo'edes Chisuves. After the Parsha to Akedah we say, Riboyne Shaloilam. K'moi shekova Shavrom Avini Yasracham Avalas Tzatzoyin Chobelei Vavsholim K'yir B'shir Achmech V'eskas Chumayoleini V'yegoy L'Rachmech V'al Miresechu. They say over in the name of Rabbi Suchadov from Belz, the Chizuk Nalaini, a gewaldige Wort. He says the Medrash brings down that Avram Avinu on the way to the Akedah, the Yitzchok tried to convince him that he shouldn't go and do it. What are you doing till the age of 100 years? Now you were zoiche to have a child. Now you're going to shecht him. And he tried to say all types of tainas in order to make it hard for Avram Avinu he shouldn't do the Akedah. In the end, he came up with the last strongest time and he asked Avram Avinu, did Hashem tell you Shachteyu? He only told you Haleyu. So you're only in mitzvah to bring him upon the Mizbeach, but you don't have to shecht him. And this was very convincing because that was the truth. But what did Avram answer him? Kach onshe shel badui. What's the oynish of a liar? Afilu oymer emes ein shoymin loy. If you know someone that he's a liar and you caught him a lot of times by lies, even though once he says the truth, you won't believe him. Kach onshe shel badui, badai. Afilu oymer emes ein shoymin loy. Meaning to say, I know you for years already. You're always telling me lies and all kinds of stories. Now it could be that you say something that's pretty convincing, but I'm not believing you anymore. So Dr. Sichadov from Belz, we ask from Hashem Yisburech. Let's say the Yitzchok comes and he's mekatring a Klal Yisrael, and maybe sometimes there's some truth in what he is saying. But k'moi shekova Shavrom Avini Yasrachamov, Lasis Letzoyincha, and even when the Samach Mem, the Yitzchok said the truth, he wasn't mekabel, because you're a liar, I'm not mekabel from you anything. Even if he has sometimes a little bit of truth to what he's saying, you shouldn't accept it from the Samach Mem, from the Malach HaMuvas, from the Yitzchok. You shouldn't accept what he is saying. The Akedas Yitzchok, this Fasema says, gewaltig. Hashem tells Avram Avinu, kach no a loshen bakoshe, kach no as binches yechitva asher uhavtu. This Vasemis mentions in one of the years. Huh?
Lashon Bakosha.
Lashon Bakosha, yeah. So this Vasemis says, Chedishim Nifluim. Hashem wasn't Mitzava Avraham Avinu that he has to shecht Yitzchok. He wasn't in Mitzava. He asked him a toive. Kach no. I'm letting you know that this is what I want. And he explains even more. Avraham Avinu had a haftoche, ki v'Yitzchok yikar el chuzura, that you're going to have generations going on, hemshech hadoyres, through Yitzchok. And that was the Vayeira what Avraham Avinu tained afterwards to Hashem. Yesterday you told me, ki v'Yitzchok yikar el chuzura. Then you tell me, go, haleu lo'ilu. Now you tell me, take him down. Yeah, like Rashi brings down at the end of the Parashat. He says that Hashem came to Avraham Avinu and asked him a favor. Look, I gave you aftuche, you're going to have Hamashpia hadoyres. Now I'm asking from you to be mevater on that matana. Give it back to me. You don't have to. You're not mechiyev. You could say, no, I really want that it should be a Hamashpia hadoyres. It should be Klal Yisrael, Yitzav as Bonov, as Beis Yachrov, V'shomri derech Hashem. I'm just letting you know that really I would want now, you should shecht Yitzchok. How do you say shechting in English? Slaughter. So you should slaughter Yitzchok. This is what I want from you. But you don't have to. It's a bakosha. It's a personal favor that I want from you. Be mevater. And if Avraham Avinu would have said, no, I take in consideration. Avraham Avinu was a Nuvi. And he was probably saw for sure what's going to be. After Yitzchok, Yaakov, Yid Beis Shiftei.
He went with it even though he knew it wouldn't happen.
Was?
He went with it even though he knew it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he knew and he saw what's going to be the Doideya, Moshe Rabbeinu, they're going to be Mekabel the Torah. Afterwards, the Dora Midbar coming into Eretz Yisrael, first Beis HaMikdash, second Beis HaMikdash, the Nevi'im, the Geoinim, Tanuim, Amiruim, whatever you mention, if it's Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, all of the other Tanuim, the Heilig Amiruim, the Rishonim, Achroinim, all tzaddikim that we had. Avraham Avinu saw the big nachasliach that they're going to make for Hashem Yisburach. B'meshech 6,000 years, what tremendous nachasliach they're going to bring to Hashem Yisburach. And if we talk about the hard times that Klal Yisrael had b'meshech all the doides, the redifis, and now they were oimed b'nesoy and screaming out Hashema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. The tremendous nachasliach that Hashem had from all of these Yidden. And now Hashem tells them, look, I want from you, take a Yitzchok and slaughter him, and finished. The whole plan that we have about having a Klal Yisrael is going to be going in Ezer, go and decide, no, I want. So Avinu could have said, no, that's for me more important. But Avinu didn't make these cheshbonis. He said like this, what does Hashem want from me now? Slaughter Yitzchok, shecht Yitzchok. I'm putting aside the whole plan that I had, that I saw B'Nevi'ah, Klal Yisrael coming out with all of the Nachas I'm all putting aside, and I want to do now to slaughter Yitzchok, because this is what Hashem wants from me now. So when we think into this, it's no chiddush. What Chazal say, macheles. Klal Yisrael eats from the schar from Akedas Yitzchok till today. Why not? Because actually, when Avraham Avinu did Akedas Yitzchok and he was willing to slaughter Yitzchok, he put into this Akedas Yitzchok the whole Nachas that he knew B'Nevuah that Hashem is going to have from Klal Yisrael 6,000 years, and he put all of this in this Akedas Yitzchok by saying, I want to do what Hashem wants from me now, even though this means that the whole Tochnit, the whole plan from having a Klal Yisrael b'meshech all the doiris won't come to fruition. And everything I'm willing to sacrifice because Hashem wants from me now that I should slaughter Yitzchok. So he put into this Akedas Yitzchok this all tremendous Nachas Riach that Hashem is going to have, everything I'm putting in. So if this is what's Munach, what lies in this Akedas Yitzchok, we can understand how Klal Yisrael could eat from this schar till today, because all of this is Lamais in Akedas Yitzchok.
He knew that it wasn't going to happen, or in this moment he He believed in Hashem, and he believed that Hashem could change everything. Like that all of his nevuos were not true.
Or probably first we have to know, this is what the Kotzker Rebbe explains. Some ask, why is it called a Nesoyan of Avram Avinu, not from Yitzchok Avinu? Right. So the Kotzker Rebbe explains that by a Nesoyan, you take away from the person all of his madreiges. Because if he has his gewaltige madreiges, it's not so hard to be oimed ben Nesoyan. In order to be a Nesoyan, you take away the madreiges. The Kotzker Rebbe says, Yitzchok, Hashem didn't take away his madreiges. So if he had all of his madreiges, it wasn't hard for him to do what Hashem wants. Avram Avinu, Hashem took away from him all of his madreiges, and even though he was so without any madreiges, and this is what Hashem wants from me, even though it says, Vayeira, Davoid Sesul says the Kosher Tzemagid, Vayeira Samokim Arochoik. Suddenly he sees Hashem is not close to him, he's so far from him. So what am I doing now? Hashem told me 2 days ago I should go and slaughter Yitzchok, and I don't even feel close to him. I feel so far from him. No madreigis, and he goes on. If this is what Hashem wants. So probably he didn't have then maybe the nevuah. But the truth is that what you mentioned also, the Noimel Meilech brings down in one of the parshas in Shemois. I don't remember if it's a Shemois or Vayeira or Boy. In one of those parshas, it brings down a gewaltige Rach. The Noimel Meilech explains that a tzaddik, by him it could be both things, and he doesn't even have to understand. He says Avram was going to shecht Yitzchok, but if you would ask him, on the way going to slaughter Yitzchok, is there going to be a Klal Yisrael from Yitzchok? He would answer yes. He believed that Yitzchok Yekara Lechuzura, but he also knew, I'm going to slaughter Yitzchok. How it's going to happen? It's none of my business. How? Hashem told Yitzchok Yekara Lechuzura, it's for sure going to be. Now I have to slaughter Yitzchok, it's also going to be. I don't have to understand how it's going to work. That's how the Noam Melech goes with a whole mahalach. That means that by a tzaddik it's not a stira.
I heard that the Medrash said that Abraham was very upset. That he was emotionally, he was crying, he was very upset. But if he had the assurance of knowing that everything was going to be fine, what was he upset about?
He's saying that there's this duality.
The truth is
that he didn't know. That he believed that Am Yisrael would come from Yitzchok, but he also believed that he was going on his mission of what Hashem told him to do. So he was living with this.
And the truth is that the Noam Meilech over there brings down this medrash, and Noam Meilech explains that Avram Avinu was davening to Hashem that he should leave Yitzchok alive. That's how he explains this medrash. He is going now on his way to Shecht Yitzchok. This is what Hashem wants from me. In the same time, he really wants Yitzchok should stay alive. There should be a Klal Yisrael. And he's overwhelmed, like you say. He's crying. He's begging Hashem, leave Yitzchok alive, but I'm still going on. Until you don't tell me what I should do, I'm going by Hamashpia to slaughter Yitzchok. So, and even though the Meilech explains, he was sure with assurance that for sure he's going to stay alive. How? I don't know. But this is what he knew. This is a gewaltige madraige of tzaddikim.
Something very beautiful about it. Like, just, I'm thinking about, see, Yitzchok Avinu is on his way to the Akedah. And he's gadol. He's not a simple person, right? You say with all of his milas, he's going and he's willing to do it. But if you think about nowadays, hundreds of thousands of simple Jews, chayalim, are willing also to sacrifice their lives. It's a beautiful thing.
That's all from the koyach of Yitzchok Avinu. Versteht sich? This is that's what it says. Kachno es bincha es Yitzchok. What's the es? Es is lerabois. Es bincha es Yitzchok. All generations from Klal Yisrael, they got the koyach from this Akedas Yitzchok to be Michen, to be Moisei Nefesh themselves, in order to do what Hashem wants from them. They should be knowing that their whole life is only to serve Hashem and do the mission what Hashem wants from them, and that's the tachlis of the Chaim. And if Hashem wants them to be Moisei Nefesh, that's what they're going to do. Maybe I want to finish with a story that I once heard of the Kapitchnitzer Rebbe. Zechisa Yugen Aleini. My wife, my children are descendants of the Kapitchnitzer Rebbe. Zechisa Yugen Aleini. Rabbi Avram Yeshia Heschel. His father's yahrzeit was on Rosh Hashanah. So he kept the yahrzeit on Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, or maybe the second day, I don't remember. Now, usually on a yahrzeit, you daven for the Omid on the yahrzeit. But the Rishon Rebbes, they daven usually in a private room. They don't daven for the Amid. So what did he do on Rosh Hashanah? He came out to say the Birchas HaShachar before the Umid, and he said the Akedah and the Karbanos before the Umid, till Kaddish. After Kaddish by Hoidi, he went back to his room, and the Chazan was Mamshech. Psiket is Imre. One day he came out and on Rosh Hashanah, and before they started davening, the Akedah, he said, I thought to myself, the Mefarshim asked, why is the Akedah considered the son of Avraham Avinu? The Choyr, it should have been more of Yitzchok. Yitzchok was 37 years old, and he was meichen to slaughter, to let himself be killed, to be shecht for Hashem Yisburach. So there's a lot of teritzim. He said, when I was by the Second World War, when he was locked up over there, he said like this, whatever the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, did to me, I was able to accept. They, how do you call it, they hit me, they whipped me. Whatever they did, I was able to accept. That's what Hashem wants. But when I saw them hitting another fellow Jew, whipping another fellow Jew, I couldn't take it. My heart was like, his Ahavas Yisur was tremendous of the Kapitchnitzi. So he says, according to that, it's very poshut. Yitzchok, the tzivui was to let himself slaughter. But Avraham Avinu had to see how you do something to another fellow Jew, to another Jew. That's much harder than the nesoyin of getting alone hit or whipped in order to shecht himself. That was what he said. I thought that maybe that's why we could understand the Aliyah Kudish brings down, it's in, I think, it's in the Seder Atfilah of the Aliyah Kudish. I don't know if it's maybe Shara Kavunas. He brings down like this. The Lashon is that before the davening, a person should say, Areini mekabel olai mitzvah sasei, shel ve'ahavto le'reyacha kamoicha. It says in a lot of Sidurim. And we have it in the Sidurim before we start davening. The Lashon of the Aliyah Kudish is, Koidim sheyoyimar akeidas Yitzchok. Before he starts saying the Parshas of Akedah, he should be mekabel about himself the mitzvah sesef and ve'ahavto le'reyacha kamoicha. Why ping the Lashon Koidim sheyoyimar Parshas of Akedah? Before you start davening. Why? The idea is that your tefillah should be a tefillah surabim. You're not davening for yourself. You're having in mind the whole Klal Yisrael. Maybe the Aliyah Kudish wants to teach us over here what the Kapitchnitzer Rebbe said. You're going to say Akedas Yitzchok to be Ma'ored Deschis, and the Akedas Yitzchok is considered a son of Avraham Avinu. Why of Avraham Avinu more than Yitzchok? Because to see something bad happening to another fellow Jew is much harder than to accept something that's coming upon yourself. So before you're going to say Parashat Akedah, take upon yourself the mitzvah of Ahavto l'reyacha kamoichu, then you're going to be saying the Akedah and understanding why the Akedah is considered a son of Avraham Avinu, not a son more even than a son of Yitzchok Avinu. I'm going to finish with a word of the Meshech Chochmah. The Meshech Chochmah Reb Meir Simcha brings down this week's parsha, the last shtickle. It's on the Haftorah of this week, the Haftorah of Parshas Vayeira. What are we going to read Shabbos in the Haftorah? That Elisha was Mechayim Meisim, the child. It was Elisha, it was Elisha. He came over there to this Isha Shinamis, and he promised her a child, and then the child was born, and then he was nifter one day. He was out with his father in the field, and he started crying, my head hurts, and he was sent home, and he was nifter at home. That's the story it's a Melochim. Now this Isha Shinamis comes, and she wants to ask from Elisha a Yeshua. So she goes to Elisha, and when Elisha sees her from far, he sends Gehazi. Gehazi was the Meshamash of Elisha, and he tells him, look, this Isha Shinamis that we were staying there a lot of times, she was a Machlis Oirich from Elisha, she's coming towards us. Go and ask her how she is doing, how her family is doing, how her child is doing. When Gehazi comes and he asks her all the shaylas b'shem the Elisha, she answers Shalom. Fine, everything is fine, Shalom. Then she comes to Elisha, she falls to his feet, and she starts crying, and she says, did I ask you for a child? It was only that you asked me, what could I do for you, because you did for me so much, what can I help you out? Then I thought, and I didn't even say anything. Even then it was Gehazi that said, she doesn't have children, and you promised me that I'm going to bear children. Did I ask you for children? You gave me a child, and now this child was nifted. It's so hard for me. Elisha tells to Gehazi, go and take my stick, my mishanas, and go and put it on the child's face, and he's gonna stand up Tchias HaMeisim. Chazal say that it didn't work because Elisha told him that Gehazi shouldn't talk to anyone on the way, and he didn't do exactly what Elisha told him. Afterwards, he came back, Gehazi, and he says it didn't work. Elisha went by himself, and he put himself on the child. He put his mouth on his mouth, his eyes on his eyes, his hand on his hands, and like a few minutes, he did it a few times, Sheva Pa'omim, then the child stood up, and he was Mechayim Eisim, this child. That's one of the Nisim of Elisha. Elisha asked from Eliyahu before he went up to Shemayim, Vehina Pishnayim Baruch Acha Eloi. The Medrash in Yalkut Shimoyni brings down that Eliyahu Yanuvi did b'meshech his life 8 mofsim. 8 mofsim. And Elisha had double, 16 mofsim. It's interesting. In today's days, you ask on every Rebbe, hundreds of mofsim. But right and left, back and forth. Eliyahu Yanuvi had 8 mofsim b'meshech his life, and Elisha had 16 mofsim. Pishnai B'Rechach Eloi. One of the 16 mofsim of Elisha, the mofsim was this one, that he was Mechayim Eisim, this child. The Meshech Chochmah explains the gewaltige Sache. Elisha understood in the beginning that the reason why this child is going to have Tchias HaMeisim, even though he was nifted, because this Isha Shanam is as a gewaltige Schus, that she made for him a special room, like we say in the Haftorah in the beginning. She told her husband, this Isha Shanam is, let's make Aliyah Skir Ketano, and we're going to put over there a Shilchon, a Kisei, Mitte, Menoide, whatever Elisha needs. So whenever he comes by our house, he should have his own apartment where he could stay over there. And for sure, she gave him to eat and to drink. So that's why he said to Gehazi, take my mishenes. Mishenes means this lady was my mishenes. She helped me out with all of the needs that I needed. That schus should be oimed that this child should have Tchias HaMeisim. But, says the Meshech Chochmah, that wasn't the Iker reason. The Iker reason why he was oichet to Tchias HaMeisim was because she had Emuna in the Novi Hashem. She had Emuna in the Novi Hashem. Iker Tchias HaMeisim hoyo be'eminosa hatemimo ba'anovi. And that's why she was oichet that the Novi was Mechaye, her child, and brought him back to life. And that's why it couldn't happen through Gehazi, because Gehazi didn't have the true Emuna in Elisha. Like we mentioned before, he didn't do exactly what he told him. He didn't have the gewaldige Emuna in Elisha. And that's why the Meshech Chochmah goes and he says, she had to have an asoyin in this Inyan in order to see if her Emuna is enough strong in the Novi Hashem. When she came, and Elisha sees her from far, and he sends Gehazi to ask her, is everything all right with your family? Is the child okay? She could have thought to herself, this is a Novi Hashem? He doesn't even know that my child isn't alive anymore? This is a Novi Hashem? Hashem Dafke hide this from Elisha, so she should have an Esoyin. And she strengthened herself and she said, I don't care. He is a Novi Hashem. Even though he asked me such a question, I still believe in him. And that in that schis, he was oiche that Hashem was Mechaye, a child. So some tzaddikim are moisef at this Meshech Chochmah. This child was Chavaku Kanovi. We see it because when Elisha promises her, he tells her that Ka'es Chaya at Chovekes Bein, that next year you're going to be bearing a child, Chovekes Bein, holding a child. So she named the child Chavakuk, and this child was Chavaki Kanovi. Now the Gemara says in the end of Masechta Makis that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us 630 mitzvahs. Then B'meshach the Doiris, David HaMelech puts away 15 Yesoidis, that's the Yesoid of Klal Yisrael, the Mizmor Dovid Hashem mi Yogir Ba'alecha. Then there's 9 Micha. No, Micha puts it into 3. Mu Hashem Elekecho Doirish Mimcha, Ki Masois Mishpat, V'Havas Chesed, V'Tznei Alechetz Elekecho. In the end, the Gemara says, Bo Chavakuk, V'Amidon Alachas. Chavakuk comes and he puts the whole Torah on one basic Yesoid. What's the Yesoid? Emuna. Emuna B'Hashem, V'Tzadik B'Aminoso Yichya. That a tzaddik every Yid should live with Emuna, he should live with Emuna. That's the Yesoid of all Tayag Mitzvahs. If you have real Emuna B'Hashem, Onoichi Hashem Alekechu. So according to this Meshech Chochmah, it comes from himself. Chavakik says, what brought my life back? V'tzadik b'aminoso yichya, bo Chavakik v'midon alachas. And he says, my chiyas came through my mother's Emuna. Vayaminu b'Hashem, v'moisha avdoi. You believe in Hashem. You have Nevi'is, you have Emuna in the Novi Hashem. Who is the Novi Hashem? Eved Hashem, a servant of Hashem. So this all is included in Emuna b'Hashem. You have Emuna in his Nevi'im, and his Tzadikim. And that way, he was oiche to come back to life. And that's why Chavakik is Amid Nalachas. He puts the Yesod of the whole Torah, this Yesod of Emuna. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos.